All right.
Okay, so you are now streaming.
We are now streaming. David C. Bradford, thank you for joining me again for another informational session. A little bit different than last time. We were talking about healthcare. Today, you're acting as our Cornell Cooperative Extension Energy Navigator, giving some advice on energy efficiency in a time when it couldn't be more appropriate. I had my windows open yesterday. It was beautiful outside the last couple of days, and it's snowing now. So talk about from having your windows open to having your heat on, to having your heat on while the windows are open. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what folks can be in for today?
Okay, so I am a energy navigator. I've actually been concerned about this issue in terms of basically sustainability and alternate energy, going all the way back to Peace Corps. I was a renewable gas technologist, a methane gas technologist in Ecuador many years ago. And in that place, I was trying to sell methane gas as a cooking fuel to an OPEC nation. Yes, Ecuador has oil. It was quite an interesting experience. But anyway, we're a long way from that now. I'm actually a physicist as well by training. And people might be able to see behind me my new upstairs with that's a spray foam insulation. So when we get to question and answers, I would be able to handle some more technical questions. But today I have a presentation, and we're going to focus on what is these volunteers that basically can introduce people to what is possible. In other words, they're how is your home using energy? What can be done to cut your carbon footprint, if that's your motivation, or your dollars that you're paying for energy, which in our age now, you can do both at once. So, you know, it's let's not kill birds, but two in one, two for one. I do have some slides that I'm going to use to keep me on track, if nothing else. Uses my outline, and I'll give credit to, we got these from another Cornell group, Mid-Hudson. I've lost track of a person to attribute to these, but I do appreciate being able to use these. So I can share that now, William? Or do you have any questions at this time?
No, that sounds like it's pretty self-explanatory. I think it's going to be beneficial, except for everybody.
Okay.
When.
Okay, so now what do we got to do? We just did this and I forgot already. You have to make me a host to share, or is that a different platform?
I am going to make you a host. There we go. I think you should be able to share your screen now. Go ahead, David. We'll try.
There it is. And let me. And so there it is. So again, the Energy Navigators, this is modeled on something Cornell has done in the past. Some of our audience may be familiar with the Master Gardener program, or there's actually a Master Canning program. So Cornell came up with this idea. Let's try to expand our reach. And in fact, it's got started with a NYSERDA grant, so it's also expanding NYSERDA's reach, advertising their incentive programs. But again, based on this model that Cornell already developed, and then St. Lawrence, or Cooperative Extension of St. Lawrence jumped in as well. So I am David Bradford, as already identified, and yes, so this is a volunteer program through Cornell Cooperative Extension, specifically here in St. Lawrence County for us. I was part of a team that came on board together. We've actually lost one. A woman's gone off to graduate school, but Doug Welch, Thomas Goki, and Karen Smith are also these same volunteers. Come here. There we go. And so we are part of this Energy Navigator program.
David, I'm
Now,
going to stop you for a second. Are you sharing your screen? I'm not.
According to I'm showing a green.
I'm seeing you. Did you click on share screen? Because I'm only seeing you, but
I did.
I'm
Oh,
there we are.
it said review. I was still in review mode. Sorry.
Oh, quite all right.
Good thing you're there. That's why you got to have technical backup, right? All right, let's back up. So here's the first one everybody missed that I talked about. And here's the next one I was talking about. Again, there's a team of 4 of us now. But the point person really is Nick Hamilton Honey, who is there at Cornell Cooperative Extension of St. Lawrence County, the official community energy advisor. And I put this in here, I guess, in case anybody already knew exactly what they wanted to get done and they're just now looking for how a NYSERDA program might be able to help them fund what they already know they want to do, or whatever. They could go right to this website and get hooked up with Nick Hamilton Honey. Make sure you're filling in the right applications for the right programs, what have you. Because that is, in fact, what we will do as well as volunteers. We will do some preliminary work with you. We can visit your home, bring examples of the low-cost retrofits you can do to your own home without paying professionals. So there's some really low-cost things that everybody can do. So that's where the volunteers would come in, but eventually then we direct you to Nick Hamilton Honey as the official community energy advisor. So what are 3 steps to a net zero home? And again, this would appeal to someone specifically, really concerned about what carbon is doing up in our atmosphere, how they reduce that. But like I said, we could just replace that with 3 steps to saving money, because we are in the age now where the technology is such where not only with the kind of things you could do to your home, reduce the energy you use, then reduce your pollution of carbon into the air, but at the same time make your home more comfortable and save you dollars. They're in this order of 1, energy efficiency, 2, renewable heating, and 3, solar, pretty much because that is the priority you should give them. In the field, there's the saying, the cheapest energy dollar is the dollar you don't spend. So you always start with efficiency. And we're going to see that efficiency also will relate to comfort. One of the cheapest or immediate things you need to do to reduce the amount of energy you need to either heat or cool your home is to eliminate drafts. You eliminate air infiltration and think of drafts. So yeah, you make your energy more efficient just by first dealing with what we're going to call the envelope. You immediately are going to be more comfortable just because you have a less drafty house as well. And again, there's going to be a lot of low-cost things you may be able to identify and do right away. But you always start with that. It's what the low-hanging fruit, the more bang for the buck, and it has implications on when you look at how you're heating your home, how you want to get and buy your electricity. Is you have a more energy efficient home, less drafty. Maybe you add some insulation. Maybe you do have to deal with the windows, even though that's can be a pricey thing. But you do those things first, so then when you look at what you need to heat your home, you don't need as much. You get a smaller furnace, you get a smaller wood pellet stove, you get a smaller sized heat pump, and thus what you do in terms of energy efficiency then also saves you down the road if you end up doing more, including solar. You reduce how much electricity you need you don't have to install, if you're going to put it on your own home, fewer solar panels are, and we will talk about this when we get to solar. You don't have to own your home. You don't have to have a good roof to put panels on, or a good location, sunny location. There are ways you can tap into getting a renewable energy, hydro or solar for that matter. It's not just solar now. And we'll talk about that at the end as well. But again, let's start with energy efficiency. But this is out of order. I probably should have put this somewhere different, but yeah, oh, I know why it's here. So it's here is to start with, you want to have some feel for how much energy your home uses. And that is one thing we as volunteers can do. We can help you understand, interpret your utility bill. For instance, so I changed out the numbers here for the North Country. So in my I got this directly from my electric bill, where so I'm a National Grid customer, and they will now, people like me will know, National Grid will tell us what is the average household electric use in my neighborhood. So this is comparing to people around me. And by looking at these numbers, some people may have already figured out this is not a high-end suburb of Metropolis, Potsdam. This is fairly small homes. This home started as a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. So we're talking single. There is actually some rental next to me, but not big houses. The average, according to National Grid, is about a 7 kilowatt hour per month. Electric prices can change through the year. One of the most expensive months in the winter this last year was about, when you put it all together, both what's called supply and delivery and taxes, et cetera, comes out to about 14 cents per kilowatt hour. So the average bill about $78 a month for these fairly small one family homes around this area. Whether or not that's efficient, again, you'd want to look at more detail. What is the square footage of that house? How many bedrooms, how many people? The number of people in a home will impact your energy use, of course. So there's more that would go into interpreting whether, by looking at your energy use, whether you're fairly efficient already or not. In other words, this is a way to try to identify where you can make improvements. Then where you get your electricity, well, again, National Grid for probably a lot of our audience. How do you heat your home? So when we look past electricity, a lot of the biggest component of a lot of people's energy bill is how they have to heat their home here in our cold. Yep, as I'm looking at the snow, what are we going on our 6-month winter? And we'll come and talk about that as well, about different options you have for how you heat your home. The system benefit charge, this is something else you want to identify on your electric bill, whether, again, if you're National Grid, I can tell you right now, yes, you are paying that system benefit charge. If we have people listening to this from farther afield, to take advantage of NYSERDA incentive programs, you have to pay the system benefit charge. So it has to be a for-profit commercial, energy supplier where you're paying this bill or this charge, because that is the funding for NYSERDA. Messina Electric, anybody from Messina that's listening in, you are not paying that system benefit charge to, and so you cannot, in general, take advantage of NYSERDA programs. There could be some loopholes there. Don't hold me to that. But all electric suppliers, including the municipal like Messina, are in fact required to have comparable programs similar to what NYSERDA is offering to help people move to a higher efficiency, reduce their energy, and it's basically everyone recognizing the human race is affecting our climate, and if we don't address it, our children, well, heck, we're already seeing it for ourselves. But So for that reason, as much as any, they are also required to have programs, but you'd want to talk to Messina specifically about what type of incentive programs they may have for you. All right. So your building envelope. So again, number one, efficiency. So the envelope of your home is identified by that barrier, both for heat transfer, whether you're in wintertime, you're trying to keep the heat in, or in the summertime when you want to keep the heat out. That's where your insulation is going to be. But it's also typically where you want to have your vapor barrier. So what's going to also control moisture going back and forth, but also then air as well, air infiltration, again, to eliminate those drafts. So this just shows a typical where you may have an unheated attic and it's outside of your envelope. Basements many times are forgotten about, and improvements can be made in a basement. Sometimes there's more heat loss on, and definitely can be more air infiltration through what's called the rim joists, where your house sits down on your foundation. But you want to be able to identify what is this envelope, so you can evaluate whether where you could make some improvements. I've got listed here the current insulation code. Now this would be for new construction. If someone was retrofitting a house, you're not required to come up to new building code standards. With additions, renovation, with additions, I'm not sure, don't hold me to that. But with beyond just a visual inspection, this is where one thing NYSERDA could help you with, and possibly Messina, a home, well, actually I do know Messina does have a similar program to help people get energy audits. So an energy audit is how can you do something a little bit more technical to get a better feel for how your current envelope, just how good is your current insulation. I mean, you're not going to rip down your plaster. And so, how do you get a feel for just how well insulated it is already? What is your air infiltration? Can you identify some easy fixes where you've got a lot of fresh air coming in that you really don't want? When you bring in a contractor to do an energy audit, one part of that should be what's called a blower door test. They'll actually assemble it in a door to big fans that will either blow, well, typically they are going to blow air out. So they basically create a pressure differential between outside and inside, so that now air is going to be rushing in wherever it can in your envelope. And you can just walk around and identify where there might be some big leaks of air. If you go and do get an auditor's report, then they will give you a formal report on their findings. This is something that NYSERDA can help you with in terms of affording, paying for something like this. And yes, you don't have to own your home. There are also programs for renters. So what kind of programs are there? So those that require, are giving you a subsidy, helping you pay for things, they typically are going to have an income test. At the low income end, there's actually two different programs. The Weatherization Assistance Program actually is not through NYSERDA. You go through, I can't remember the counties. Anyway, it's a county administrated program. But then you also have this thing called Empower New York. The two programs have figured out that, it's going to be the same people and they should work together. So there actually is now a common application for both of those together. So those two programs are trying to work together better. again, these making decisions here again is not what a volunteer is going to do. This is what we would send you when you get to this point where you think you want to get it, let's say an audit or solar, whatever. This is where we would send you on to the assistant. In this case, again, Nick Hamilton, honey. Oh, but again, yeah. So when you think you know what you want to do, then there are going to be programs out there to try to help you pay for it, to encourage people to do things. And higher income people, maybe you can't get help from NYSERDA or whatever. Maybe you have to pay what's called market rate. But I think at this time, there can be a good case to be made that not only by making improvements will you cut your carbon pollution, but there can still be a payback over a certain number of years. The improvements you make are going to save you money, and eventually they're going to pay for themselves. A residential energy audit should be able to give you an idea of what that payback time is. And then don't forget the increased value in your home. So this again be talking more to homeowners versus renter possibly. But you also have that feature of having just a home or a living space that's just more comfortable, whether or not you can justify it in terms of making money in the end or saving yourself money in the end. All right. Sure you don't have any questions, William. I'm going pretty quick here, but we'll have plenty of time if there's anybody.
I'll tell you, we actually so we had a hiccup with our live. So it was going live, but it was going live on a wrong profile. So we're up on our page, and I put a quote, I put a little comment in there letting folks know that we had a little hiccup, but that we're recording this and we are going to repost it later on, that we are live now so people can chime in with their questions. And we actually have, it looks like Mary Lou Hardwich Levitt says, are nonprofit organizations buildings able to receive an energy audit? Our church in Plattsburgh is having to spend a lot of heating to keep the organ warm during the cold months.
Oh gosh.
How does that work for nonprofits and nonprofit buildings like churches? Can they get audits?
There was a program that or actually no, I'm getting confused with a program for municipalities. So municipalities are sort of in the same, they also are not paying taxes like the nonprofit. But the nonprofit, I believe, if they are paying that system benefit charge on their electric bill, I would hope that they are eligible for these programs, but our focus, as you can tell, the volunteers are for, again, homeowners and renters, basically residential. And I've lost touch on where the current status of that is, but I definitely know where to go to find that answer and get back to you. How about that? So
that sounds good.
I want to know the answer to that as well. So I'm going to find that out, and then we'll post that as well as maybe getting it directly back to their Mary Lou.
Yeah, sure.
All right, so okay, so you get an audit. So maybe hopefully then you have a pretty good idea of what the efficiency of your home is. Maybe you've identified some cheap things you could do in terms of weather stripping. Maybe instead of putting in new windows, which can be pretty pricey, you're going to put plastic up on your windows in the wintertime to cut down on those drafts. So you think you've done as well as you can there, and then you're going to look at how you heat your home. Because again, here in the North Country, that's our biggest expenditure, energy expenditure. Let me clear up one issue though. There's been I actually consider myself pretty informed, but I struggled with this myself in terms of how can you consider burning wood or pellets a net zero carbon heating source? And the reason you can is not, yes, when you burn anything, you are creating more carbon dioxide that goes up into your exhaust, but it is carbon that's already in the carbon cycle. So you say, wait a minute, it takes a few years for a tree to, absorb that carbon and put it back into the biomass of a growing tree. But that 50-year, that even 100-year, maybe even a 200-year, that cycle is still nothing compared to the geological cycle where all of those plants back with the dinosaurs got sequestered all of that carbon that got buried, that we with the industrial era have decided to just willy-nilly burn as much as we can, as fast as we can. So that's the distinction there. And so, yes, you can consider a wood source or a pellet as a net zero contributor to carbon in our carbon cycle. Of course, this says nothing about whether or not that wood source is sustainably harvested and as much many trees are being planted as being harvested. So that's all a different topic. But again, we'll consider this as a viable option to be carbon net zero. It may not be the best one for your home. Not only then are you using different carbon, or I should say fossil fuels really is the big one we got to worry about. You might be using those fossil fuels, natural gas, oil, and some of those are worse than others as well, but not just for what's called space heating, but you might also be using it for hot water, domestic hot water in your home. You could be looking at alternatives there. There actually is another audit that can be done there, something called a heat load analysis. Again, seeing what you're using for heating your home. Again, a home energy assistance program is out there that can help with that. And like I said, I referenced already some do-it-yourself options. There are plenty, there's a number of low-cost things that non-technical people can do. And that is something a volunteer could talk with you about. Like I said, we do have a kit, and we are getting to where we will, far enough along in the pandemic, maybe starting to see the light, but as they say, do we know it's a train coming down the tunnel or not? We don't know. But I'm vaccinated. I do know those that are coming to people's homes to do energy audits. They are doing them, and they have now COVID-19 procedures on how to do it safely to come in and do an energy audit in your home. We seem to have a better idea on how to do that safely. But as part of the do-it-yourself actions, we have kits that have examples of the different kind of things you could get at your local hardware store to address very cheaply air infiltration, drafts in your home. And again, remember those kind of low-tech, low-cost things are not only going to immediately save you some energy dollars, but they're also going to make your home more comfortable in terms of, again, eliminating drafts. All right. So electricity. Now, if you are heating your home with electricity, you probably definitely want to look into that. There is a low efficiency way to do that called resistance heaters. So if you got a bunch of baseboard heaters, the best one that's out there, at best, they're going to give you, 1 unit of heat for 1 unit of electricity when you convert them to the same energy units. And that's not very efficient. We can do better. Dollar-wise, you will find that in everywhere except possibly Messina, that because of the Messina Electric and the power dam subsidies for them up there, they actually have a whole bunch of baseboard resistive electric heat because it is cheap for them because of their incredibly low electric rates. But for the rest of us, again, you would find natural gas, if you can get that, and here in Potsdam we can. So we have predominantly natural gas furnaces heating people's homes, or boiler systems, as a cheaper option to electric. But now you're burning fossil fuels. In just the last few years, there's been incredible advances in using electricity now for both space heating and hot water heating. It's based on something called heat pump technology. This is something actually, it's actually a fairly old technology in general. It's your refrigerator. Your refrigerator is a heat pump. And without getting into what the technology actually is, the bottom line is this technology can move 3 units of energy for 1 unit of, in this case, electricity to move the energy. So you basically get a order of 3 multiplier in terms of the efficiency for this kind of technology, to the point where, in fact, going through NYSERDA, there's a big push to incentivize and try to help people make a conversion away from even natural gas to heat pump technology, because it is both cheaper, or at a minimum, it's going to be comparable, but in many locations, it can actually be cheaper. It turns out here in the North Country, we actually have fairly cheap electricity compared to the rest of the state. Surprise, surprise. But it is also going to be able to convert you to electricity. And even if you are using just standard electricity delivered by National Grid from wherever they buy it, our electric mix up here is actually pretty green already. We got a lot of hydro. And in terms of your carbon footprint, switching over to heat pump technology is going to actually reduce your carbon footprint, as well as possibly saving you dollars. Of course, then you have to look at the age of your existing equipment. What your payback going to be is like, if your equipment needs to be replaced anyway, you definitely should be looking at your options for heat pump technology. There are heat pump technology you can actually get for hot water heating. There are other options for hot water heating, your domestic hot water, something called on-demand. And you can get on-demand electric, or you could also get on-demand gas, which is better than having a tank, because again, of all the energy loss just by keeping 40 gallons of hot water hot, just for when you might need it in the morning, in the afternoon, whatever. But it still is keeping that water to a certain temperature overnight when you really don't need it. So that's something someone could look into as well. In terms of just cutting your electric energy use, simplest thing out there is LED lighting. So this new technology is actually well established now. Go to your hardware store, you're going to find they're very affordable. And when you look at how long these bulbs last, not only do they immediately save you a whole bunch of, at least percentage-wise, the amount of energy that you would use on lighting goes way down, but then the bulbs last a very long time as well. You may already be getting notices from your utility. National Grid will periodically send out, they have incentive programs as well to help people buy more efficient LED lights. So through their incentive programs, you might be able to get them really, really cheap. They'll also help you get more efficient appliances in your home. The other big user, besides the hot water heater, the refrigerator. The refrigerator is going to be a big user of electricity in your home. And again, check with your utility. There could be programs through your utility to help with getting the efficient appliances and bringing down your electric load there as well.
David, I was just going to say, when I had in the apartment I was living in for years, and talk about like as far as price of electricity, and I think everything was included with my electric bill, and I used to laugh because I'd get my bill and thinking like, oh man, it's like I know I've been running around and I got maybe a couple of months I want to pay up on, and it was like $20, for a 1-bedroom apartment, and that would sometimes be several months worth because it's just, I mean, the bill was so minimum. And then as I was trying to find out where my energy and where my power was coming from, I know that you talked about some of the local companies that will also, you can navigate around where you want to go in the area. I was using, I think, Northern Power and Light. And when I signed up with them, they were looking at, for example, on the Racket River, they have the Sissonville Community Hydro, which is going to be going soon. And
yeah, I'm gonna talk about that as an extension of what's called community solar. They have now, and by the hydro people were really up in arms because they were not, at first they were not included in these incentive programs, even though they are a green energy. That has now changed. And so, yes, when I talk about community solar, what we talk about there also now applies to signing up with your renewable energy by way of a hydro project. Yes.
One of the other questions I had, we now living in a house, and I've lived in old homes over these. I grew up for a part of my life in Albany. We lived in a very old home there. I'm living in an old home now. It's been redone, but when you have these old houses, they're oftentimes drafty and things like that. And you try to find different ways. I've used the plastic over windows, using those the door snakes and things like that. I mean, how efficient are you using these types of energy savers?
They can make a big difference. You're never going to seal up an old home like new construction, but and I wouldn't necessarily recommend people continually bring in an auditor with the blower door. I mean, when people do new construction now, they actually will do multiple tests as they go through the building process with a blower door to continually check the air infiltration, go find leaks, seal them, different stages of new home construction. For an older home, that's going to be hard to do. In other words, you're going to have leaks that are hidden in walls and things you really can't get to. You do your best. But again, you should immediately notice just the greater comfort because of a less drafty home. Yes, bringing in a blower door after you do some things could give you a quantitative and not just a qualitative feel for how well you've done. If there are still some leaks that you should go look for and try to seal. But just weather stripping doors, putting plastic on windows, maybe figuring out if you could weather strip a window so you don't have to deal with the plastic, caulking around the casings of windows. There's a lot of pretty obvious things that, again, you could really quickly identify, oh man, that's got to be a big air leak. Seal them up. With an older home, yeah, you're always going to find something more. That's going to be true too.
Sure. Thanks. Continue. I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it was appropriate. So again, going through before I move away from this slide, you might even find through your utility that at times they may offer special prices for a programmable thermostat. Make it easy for you to control turning down your thermostat. So again, you're not heating a home when you're not there, or you're bundled under your down quilt and you don't need to heat the rest of the house. But then you can have the house starting to heat up a half hour before you get out of bed, those kind of things. So you can, again, find incentive programs, typically through the utility, to help you buy those kind of things at your local hardware store or through the utility itself. Power strips that have turnoffs. There's something called phantom loads, where, again, in our modern world, if you walk into your home and you got a bunch of alien red lights looking at you, all of your smart utilities that have remote controls. They actually have to be plugged in and powered up so that you can click that remote to turn them on immediately, or that you can voice activate them, whatever. That means that they are using energy, a certain amount, 24/7. One simple way to eliminate that is just have these different devices on a power strip. You turn off that power strip, all of that goes off. You're not using that energy overnight. And of course, yeah, they call it a phantom load because it's almost imperceptible. But if you're talking about something that's there 24/7, 365 days a year, it adds up. And so again, having a power strip is an easy way just to eliminate those kind of loads. You got everything plugged in, but you got a simple switch where you can eliminate that. And again, those are the kind of things that us as volunteers can talk to you about. Whether we do an in-person walk through a home, do a virtual visit over our modern technology that we're talking about here, whatever. These are certain things we could help people with. And so finally, let's say you've done all of that and now you want to get as green a energy source as you can. Maybe you've converted over to heat pump technology. You've got your house all electric. But again, now you've got to have a clean, renewable source of electricity to claim you are net zero. It turns out with solar, you not only can, again, get renewable, but you can also save money. And now when I say solar here, let's generalize this to hydro. We have a wealth of hydro up here in the North Country. National Grid is already taking advantage of that. Again, the electricity they develop or deliver to your home just automatically. In other words, they are the default supplier when you sign up to get electricity. The default is National Grid is going to both deliver it to your home. They're also the ones not necessarily producing it, but buying it on the open market and delivering it to your home. And that market changes through the year. Those rates can change through the year. But again, it's surprisingly fairly cheap here in the North Country and green with all the hydro compared to downstate. But you can still do better. You can do better in terms of you could look for completely green. One way would be to sign on to a solar. There's different ways to get solar. You could put solar on your house. If you are what's called grid tied, where you basically are using National Grid and the electric grid as your battery, so you always have power whether the sun's out or not. You then still have a certain fee you have to pay National Grid year round. I pay $17 a month. I actually do have solar. I pay $17 a month all year. I am still paying off my solar panels, and basically my payback is about 9 years. And after 9 years of paying, it's all gravy. It's like getting, the panels are paid off and I'm now getting free electricity, other than paying National Grid that $17 a month so I can have electricity in the middle of the night. But you don't have to be a homeowner. There's something called community solar, and renters can take advantage of this as well, where they can identify a community solar project that they want to get electricity from. There's a couple different models, something called a purchase agreement you can make, something called a subscription. I don't think I want to get into those kind of specifics again. This would be, I believe, where I'm supposed to pass people on to Nick Hamilton Honey, who's got the more up-to-date. She's the one that's being paid to keep up, like the earlier question. That's actually where I'm going to go immediately to talk today about whether the nonprofits can take advantage of the NYSERDA programs. Nick should already have that answer, and I will first check there. Excuse me. So again, there are different models. And like I said, because of the uproar of hydro producers that why aren't we included, they now are included. And so there is a community renewable program where you can contract here locally. Northern Power and Light, in fact, has just taken over. Well, they had the original power dam. They've now taken over the new one at Sissonville, I guess it is. And they are selling subscriptions to that. I believe, again, so that's the subscription model. So yes, you have to be hooked up to the grid. Your energy is being delivered by National Grid, but then you can have your supplier be this green energy supplier. And I believe they can promise that you should save about 10% on your electric energy bill by going with them. So not only is it green, and you're supporting local production of energy, but also I believe you can also save money, but I'll let them make the pitch for themselves. The costs, incentives, and rebates that have always been out there for solar, those are, as the renewables actually get more competitive, those actually will go away. And again, I'm not up on where we're at. I'm not exactly up on where we're at in terms of what the tax rebates are, when they're going to sunset. But I do know, and again, there's both at the state level and at the federal level, I do know the idea is that these incentives and rebates are there to help build an industry, to make it competitive. Well, solar and the renewables are reaching the point where they are competitive. And so what that's going to mean, these incentives and rebates are going to start to disappear. And like I said, I'm not up right now on what the sunset is of these different programs. There still are some out there, and there is a lot of pressure to keep the incentives and the rebates, because even though they're competitive, we got to sweeten the pot, because we got to make things go as quick as possible because of the reality of climate change. The quicker we can get off of burning fossil fuels, the better. And so there is a lot of pressure to keep these incentives and rebates in place, at least a certain level of them, so that we move away from burning those fossil fuels as quick as possible. Like I said, I'm not up on exactly when, where that is at. So we have these examples here. Again, that's sort of laying out how the different billing would look, whether you go by way of subscription through your utility bill, or you are dealing directly with the community source directly, which I believe is like I said, the Northern Power and Light. I believe they go by way of the subscription model. But again, that information is easily found, but sort of outside of the purview of the Energy Navigator volunteer program. So even though I did know the answer to some of those, my information is not necessarily right up to date, so I'm going to avoid trying to answer those questions. But I think I'm getting near the end. Oh, no. So let's say someone's at the stage where they would like a more general discussion, maybe a walkthrough of their home, maybe a virtual walkthrough where you're still not comfortable, or just something you think we could handle online. We have a checklist. Again, I forgot the origin of this, whether Mid-Hudson Cooperative did this, or so again, I don't know the origin of this, but it basically, it's something that keep people on task, help you, and it's something that I can share. So if somebody wants to do the checklist on their own without a volunteer, that's possible as well. But basically helping you identify with a first walkthrough of the house, what are the low-hanging fruit, just where your priorities should be, what's something that could save you the most with the smallest amount of expenditures, whatever. So we do have that we could share, and it's something we would use if we would visit. And that is it. So I better leave some time for some questions. Here is my email, the second email in blue there. That is the Cornell Extension email that they set up specifically for the energy program. So that stands for St. Lawrence County Energy Line. And us as volunteers, we will check that to find out if people are trying to get a hold of us. There is my phone number if somebody wants to give me a call, and there is the Cornell Cooperative Extension. So this is their number with the extension getting you directly again to the energy program. And I'm guessing Nick Hamilton Honey might actually be extension 230 there if you wanted to talk to they directly. And talk more. I always talk more than I planned, but got a little bit of time here. If got any more questions for me, and I'll quit share, or I'll quit sharing if I can figure out how. And then if we need to go back to a slide, I can do that.
Oh yeah, no, I think that I think that was really helpful. We have, we've had quite a few comments back and forth. Actually, the Cornell Cooperative Extension of St. Lawrence County has added some comments and some links in our comments section.
Oh, good. Nick has been listening in. He can
Yeah,
correct me. Nick, you know that question about nonprofits. What's the answer?
And then we will. I'll reiterate here, according to the Mary Lou's question about nonprofits. Yes, nonprofits and small businesses can receive an energy audit. To learn more, you can go to your community energy advisor, Annie Arnold, at ANCA, as ANCA 518-891-6200, and go to NYSERDA website at www.nyserda.ny.gov/all-programs/small-commercial-energy-assessments. And then there are some other links in there as well that pertain to the presentation. When we republish this, I'll do a little write-up. I'll have some links in there to help some folks out as well, so they can click hyperlinks and take them to those places. It's helpful. Back in my reporter days, David, I did a little bit of energy reporting and talked to a couple of folks. We have, I wanted to talk about solar a little bit. There are some companies locally who do solar installment. Is that correct? Are you familiar with?
Oh yeah. So Scott Shipley is still in business. Northwind, I believe it's Northwind.
Northern Lights.
Whatever. Anyway,
I can do some digging on that too. I know I've spoken to Scott years ago.
Yeah, so he's still in the business. He's expanded his business into putting in. Somebody really wants to get a hold of me for my.
You are a popular man.
But that's why I got an answering machine. I took 2 hours off for this. But so now I got distracted. Oh yeah. So he's also doing charging stations, for instance, people looking at getting electric vehicles. So all things renewable electric. So he was part of the original installer team when there was Canton did their solar program. So
I remember that.
It was the incentive came by way of group buy. So the idea was you get enough people lined up that want to get in solar panels installed, then everybody gets a lower price.
Right.
And so he was one of the installers, and then Apex Solar. In fact, that's when I got mine. Even though I'm in Potsdam, again, I joined with the Canton Solar project, but the big group is actually Apex. They're a bigger operation. They set up a warehouse in Malone to serve. They're originally down from I think the Glens Falls, down there somewhere area, but they have more of a presence up here as well. And there's the guy over at over by the river. Alexandria Bay, somebody over there as well. So yeah, so there's some choices there. So you can do, multiple quotes type of thing. But again, that's something more to the homeowner. So if you are a renter, yes, that's probably not going to be an option for you, but there are now options for you. So that's where you want to look into community solar. And that again is now something, so as Nick alluded to by, the Canton, I'm sorry, the Cornell is focused on your residential energy use. And so we had the other, had to refer to someone else, the ANCA people are NYSERDA directly for nonprofits and small business. But in terms of solar, yeah, Nick can help with hooking people up with that. There's actually another angle that's moving there. There's called community choice aggregate that's moving through your municipalities. So both Canton and Potsdam are looking at a program where when people come in and sign up for electricity, why is the default National Grid? Yes, National Grid is going to be your grid connection is by way of National Grid that's going to deliver energy to your home, but the default is they're also going to deliver the electricity that they have gone out and bought on the open market. Mm-hmm. And so you are buying your electricity from National Grid as well. Why? Why are they the default? They don't have to be. And it's something called community choice aggregation. A community can choose a different supplier to be the default for your community. You can always opt out and you can go back to National Grid, or someone like me who I've got solar on my house, that's not an option for me. I'm not going to be buying power from Northern Power and Light either, because I got my own solar panels. So in fact, I've already opted out of the National Grid supply. That doesn't get overwritten. If you've already opted out, you stay opted out. But the community can make the choice of making a green energy supplier or possibly finding a cheaper energy supplier to be the default for the community. And the idea being that, again, if enough communities come together to buy that green energy, it gets cheaper for everybody. So not only will a community can decide to have the default be green, the hope is they would also save their community energy by that being the default supplier. That's not happened yet in our area, Canton or Potsdam, but both our municipal leaders are looking at it. So if people have strong feelings one way or the other, they want to know more, they can, pay attention to your town board meetings, village board meetings, and their agendas, and see how that discussion is going forward.
Nick has chimed in. If Nick's on the board here for the Cornell Cooperative Extension, has mentions that the community energy advisors vary depending on your county. So in Jefferson and Lewis, it looks like Kate Ripstein at CCE of Jefferson County. And then of course, Nick Hamilton-Honey for St. Lawrence and Franklin counties at CCE of St. Lawrence County, or SLC. And then Clinton, Essex, and Hamilton is Annie Arnold of ANCA. And for more information on that, you can visit Smart Energy Choices North Country at smartenergychoicesnorthcountry.com.
Very good. Yeah, so maybe we do get the virtual world. Maybe we're reaching far and beyond our local St. Lawrence County.
Yeah, it's and one of the things that I have been curious as a renter, and we're talking about having solar gardens and things where you can have community solar. But now as a homeowner, and such as you are and I am, you have the option to get solar power. If you're connected to an energy provider, be it National Grid or Green Energy or somebody who's providing you with your power, if you get solar on your home, there's a way of obviously that you can reserve that, but you can still stay connected. And you said it's like, say, a battery for now.
Yeah, so it's what's called grid tied. And the benefit, of course, is you still have a guarantee of electricity 24/7. You don't have to, someone, in fact, there's a number of the homesteaders that came to St. Lawrence County, many, many years ago that put in their solar panels and they were off the grid. So they had to figure out how much money to spend on their battery bank, maintenance of a battery bank. If you had too many, days in a row without sunlight, they may run out of electricity. I don't have to worry about that. And I pay for that. I pay that minimal.
$17 a month.
Yep, $17 a month. So that, and the way it works, what we have in New York, again, to help promote solar energy, is net metered. So mine is net metered, meaning when I am producing excess during those long summer days, I'm pumping a lot more electricity into the grid than I'm using. My meter runs backwards. I build up a credit, and then in the short day winter months, I start spending that credit. So I'm still only paying $17 a month as long as I have a credit. But you do want to size your system correctly, because it does not pay to be a net supplier, because at the end you have to establish a day of the year where you set the meter back to zero, or in effect, you basically clear the books. And if you still have a credit with National Grid, they're going to pay you just minimal penny, basically what they call the wholesale price. They'll pay you, I think in general, it's been like 2 cents a kilowatt hour. They will pay me for any excess kilowatt hours I still have on my meter, set it back to zero, and then I have to start building up again. So it does not pay you to put more panels on your home than what you need for your own, but you can use your annual load to size your system. A lot of people, just so that they never are producing electricity at 2 cents a kilowatt hour for the grid, they may even design their solar system to maybe be only 80% of their anticipated annual load. I actually got mine designed at over my current load, because my goal is to have a car charging station and have an electric car. So I over designed mine for that future load that I haven't quite got to yet, but I'm getting there. So hopefully I'll be able to be charging my car and driving with the electricity I'm producing on my own panels. But again, to have that 24/7, you still got to be hooked up to the grid. But I don't have to have batteries, so I have no batteries.
Yeah, and probably you're saying like being able to be off the grid completely, having batteries and charging those up and making sure. And if there's, like I said, long periods of days where we don't have sun, or in the shorter winter months, which those winter months seem to be a lot longer than shorter, don't they?
Now I do know some people that have a hybrid, and you can make a case if you're in a place that has experienced power outages before and you're worried about that. I do know people that the National Grid doesn't like it, and they try to put roadblocks in your way, but I believe there is a way to have a battery bank, be grid tied, still have batteries, so that if you lose power, you have to isolate your system. You have to be able to isolate your battery, and with a flip of a switch, you isolate, and you could then be having the equivalent of an off-grid. So you could still have electricity because of your solar panels and your batteries isolated from the grid if the grid goes down. When that next ice storm comes, and it's not if, it's when. With the changing climate, the likelihood we're going to have another one of those nasty ice storms is going up, because as our winters get warmer, the conditions for an ice storm like we had, I was not here, but I've heard about the 98. It's more likely that that's going to occur again than less likely as our climate up here changes. But that's a lot of added expense if people really think it's worth it to basically have both systems. Be hooked up to the grid, have to pay your $17 a month, but then go to the expense of having batteries and the electronics so that it isolates from the grid if necessary. And So it would probably be a fairly unique situation where people would want to consider that.
Yeah, yeah, and it's and well, like you said, the things change when it comes to the weather, and we've seen a lot of that. So uh, I will, I guess, say that thank you, David. I mean, this has been really
Great.
beneficial, I think, and there's it's always nice to be able to talk about how you can save money, especially in a place where uh, we have long winters. And that's when I moved here, one of the main things that I had looked at was whenever I was purchasing, or if I was going to purchase a home, or if I was renting, I wanted to be as energy efficient, especially in the heat department because of our long winters. But I've been a lot more mindful of being more energy efficient, and having this kind of information and finding out where you can go to find out how to be more energy efficient, how you can get help. And these tips are all extremely, I think, beneficial in the long haul.
Yeah, and we didn't even say anything about geothermal, or basically heat pump technology, where you use the heat from the ground. That is also technology that's matured. But again, you're probably talking about, I didn't bring it up because it's a very specialized audience of homeowners, a pretty big upfront expense, even though they will pay for themselves because the lifetime of the heat exchange coils you basically have to put in the ground, they're 50 years, you know. So it's going to last a really long time once it's installed. But again, it's the initial upfront cost has been a barrier for most people, but it's getting more and more. And I believe NYSERDA is trying to figure out ways to help promote that in certain situations. But typically, it's for a big office complex, or I'm not sure where they're at in trying to promote ground source heat pumps basically for residential. That's still a pretty big barrier, that upfront cost. But there are programs for, again, maybe some small businesses, whatever, where they might even want to look into ground source heat pumps.
And where can folks find information out about that? Is that something
That would be NYSERDA.
Yeah.
Let me actually, it's real. I had it up. Do I still have it up? Yeah. Okay. Let me share again.
Please.
So, so I actually was looking ahead of time at the community solar here, but basically, so find out about solar, this page called New York Sun. So you just do a general search on NYSERDA. Let me back up. Solar, solar, solar. Come on, where's the generic? Here we go. So the generic page, again, we've got business and industry, communities and government, residents and homeowners. Under residents and homeowners, we're talking about, I forgot one of the biggest things, especially as the North Country is going to have hotter summers. That's another benefit of your heat pump technology, is you can use that same technology to both heat and cool your home. So it can be now the air conditioner in your home in the summertime that you never thought you'd need, but lo and behold, you're finding 90-degree summer high humidity days are getting a little bit too many. That would be another incentive to maybe look into heat pump technology. So if we go to your heat and cool your home, again, there's a big push on the heat pump technology because it's just gotten that much more efficient. You can get them as heating, water heaters, cooling systems. Okay, I do not see, let's see if they're going to talk about geothermal here. So there are available rebates under what's a program called Clean Heat, New York State Clean Heat. They immediately want to know where you are, and I'm afraid what that means is the incentive available may actually depend on where you live. I'm not so sure about that. So they're not showing me a geothermal right up front, so I don't know the answer there. So I'll have to look into that. Because again, it is when they talk about geothermal or ground source, it is a heat pump. It is a heat pump technology.
That's
It's
interesting.
actually
I've never heard of that.
it's more reliable because you don't have to worry about those extra cold winter days that we have up here, or may still have every once in a while. If you get below the frost line, the ground temperature is almost year-round 45 degrees here in the North Country. And so it makes that a much more reliable heat source than even your air source heat pump.
I like that.
There was a, I don't know where the discussion is. Someone was promoting the idea to help make, I mean, it is a very good technology that should be more widely used. It's just, again, that upfront cost.
Yeah.
And if you present a business, a technology that maybe it's going to last 50 years, but if their payback is over 10, double digits, they're going to say, no, I can take that same money and I'm going to go invest it and I'm going to make dollars, in 3 years, I can double that, whatever their investment strategy is. So that they use that as an argument on not to spend that money on something that has over a 10-year payback period, even though that technology is going to last 50 years.
Yeah.
So it's going to be free energy for 40 years after you've paid for it. But that still can be a hard sell for some profit generated entities. So one of the ideas was maybe you create a system where the utility would own the heat exchange coils that are buried in the ground. And the homeowner then only rents them or something. So basically, let the utility that can think on a longer time span to make their money, they know they're going to be collecting rents on those for 50 years, so they can put it into their business plan and make it make sense. But then the homeowner can come and they can just take advantage of ground source heat pumps, and then when they sell the home or they move or whatever, they never had to pay that upfront cost. They don't have to worry about recouping that when they sell the home. And I've heard that model proposed. I don't know how close it is to anybody adopting it or not, though. But the technology is, I mean, we actually do need more ground source heat pump to move the needle as much as we have to move it. It actually is better than air source heat pumps.
Well, it'll be interesting to see where the future takes us, and hopefully this will be able to pick up. Like any technology, I think after time it becomes more affordable, correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I hope so. Thanks again. I mean, this has been great. I will, for anybody that wants to contact you or.
Oh, I never did. I did.
No, you did. You put it up. You put up all the information. So we have.
You did see it?
Oh, what's that?
Did you guys, I think I was clicking through pages that I never shared again. I'm sorry.
No, but you were talking about them in a very cohesive manner.
All right. Well, here, there. Learn about heat pumps. Go to New York State Clean Heat and learn about heat pumps. There you go.
We'll put more of that information, of course, on our site, and we'll share this, over again for folks to be able to watch this again at a later date, and have all that information that was shared by Nick, as well as by you, and kind of have folks more informed. I mean, we do a lot of these adult programs where we have people doing recreational stuff and things like that, but I think these informational presentations are extremely beneficial to the community, and really help, especially in a place where people want to save, and people want to be able to make their place more energy efficient. And anything that helps the environment is always beneficial, isn't it?
But hey, I'm convinced, but then again, I'm a scientist, so I've been convinced for a long time that we got a big problem we got to be dealing with.
Yeah, agreed. But thank you again, David. I appreciate it. And, I look forward to talking to you again. We'll do another one of these when we know there's more information available, and we'll keep on informing our community.
Very good. Well, thanks for hosting this.
That's my pleasure. We'll talk soon.
Okay, bye-bye.